Hi, I have been thinking about what on earth I am going to do in the beginning weeks of the school. And so I am sharing some of my plans and thoughts just in case anything is useful to anyone. So I'll have this presentation shared also just because it has all of my links in it. But please let me know if there's anything that I overlooked that you were curious about or had questions about. So to start with, fifth grade is using our Google Classrooms as our primary learning management systems. We had pretty good success with that last year, and our kids are coming up with some experience with Google Classroom. So that will be what we tell kids, where we tell kids to go to pick up all their stuff. And so I will show you, but my plan is to have a daily agenda posted there for my classes when we are in person so that students who are not at school can still access that. And then also the materials that they might need to complete certain things at home. And then I'll have everyone's homework on Google Classroom this year because I want to get everyone kind of trained in how to use that platform just in case we need to shift to distance learning. So I'll share what my Google Classroom looks like in a minute. But I was thinking about what are the things I really want to make sure in that first week or first couple of weeks that we cover, if nothing else. And so I'm thinking I really want to think critically about our mathematical practices. I don't know what exactly I'm going to be able to cover in terms of content this year, depending on how disrupted it is and whether or not I'll get to every single thing on my list. But I think my most important goals are to help kids continue to develop as mathematical thinkers. And so right away, I want them to be thinking about showing their work because once they go into distance learning, I need to have them trained as far as what I want to be able to see on the page. The more we can lay that groundwork right from the start, the better off we'll be. And then also the practices of investigating things so that even when they are on their own, they feel comfortable kind of tackling things that they're not totally familiar with and just starting off with the questions about what are they noticing and what are they wondering about. And that way we don't have to go to any kind of like a just totally being spoon-fed procedures kind of a learning mode. They're still in that space of investigating and discovering and asking questions and testing theories. And then finally, reflecting on mistakes, I think is super important for mathematics and probably a lot of subjects. So thinking about their mistakes or other mistakes, what is the thinking that's leading to the mistake, what is correct in how they're thinking about it, and then where exactly is the error happening and how would we fix it. So the other part that I need to establish right from the beginning is some of the technology that we're going to be using. And I'm looking to do this so that they're having practice with it just kind of organically within the classes that we're doing as much as possible, and just keeping an eye on if they're being overloaded, what can I pull back on, but if they're really absorbing it quickly, these are the things that I would want to make sure that they know how to deal with. So Google Classroom is first, and we'll get that going right from the start with showing them how to get to their homework there. One of the things that we used a lot last year was taking pictures of their work. And so it's really important for them to know how to take a good quality picture of their written work so that I can see how they're doing their math. So we did this survey last year, we made it, and this was, it came from a lot of student suggestions about how they were being successful with taking their clear pictures, because some kids did a great job right from the start, and some kids were really struggling for a while. So I just had them fill out the survey. And so the first part was strategies for how their written work just looks on the page. And then for how they are setting up the picture that they're taking. And then also for the different devices that some kids were using to take their pictures. And I just had this as an assignment. Every kid had to go through and read every single suggestion and either say that they plan to try it, they have tried it and it works, they've tried it and they don't like it, or they just are not interested in it at all. And that was, I think, a quick way to just kind of get people exposed to some of the strategies. And then some kids had some suggestions that they added. So this helped me get kids up and running with taking pictures of their work. And then I'm also wanting them to learn how to get comfortable correcting their work and submitting it through Google Forms. And I'll show an example of an assignment that does that a little bit later on. There's a website called thatquiz.org, which some of you may have used. It's very basic, but it really does what I need in terms of some of the basics of, even if I just want the kids to start every day with math fact practice, I can put together and I can decide how long it is, how difficult it is, whether or not I want it timed. And then I create it for them and it has a code. And so the kids don't have to have a login or anything. They just go to this page and type in the code here or paste it. And then that takes them directly to it. And then my teacher account, I get to see the work that everybody did on that. So it's just a simple website, but it helps me a lot for some math skills. Snipping tool is something that all students have on their computer. And I use it a lot. So if you haven't used it, it's just for taking like kind of mini screenshots of things on the screen. So if you would say, take a new one, and then you might snip like a piece of something, and then you have it and you can copy that or save it as a file. So one reason that I would want them to be able to do this is for troubleshooting. If they're getting an error message, it would be an easy way for them to take a snip of their error message and then just email it to me. Or depending on the assignment, maybe I have them doing something on the computer and I want them to be able to take a picture of it and submit that for their work. So it's just a handy tool to have when you're doing work learning on the computer. And then finally, I found these really great virtual manipulatives for math. And so it does require a Flash player, but I think the kids are able to use that on their Chromebooks. So it's got a lot of different backgrounds that you might want as a math teacher for anyone that's teaching math, that can lay out a grid or whatever it is. And then it's also got manipulatives. So I know I'll be doing a lot with fraction pieces. And so I can have the kids, if they don't have their own personal kit at home, I can still have them building things with fractions and thinking about just the way that fractions look with this tool. So I want to get them, I'll probably be using it myself on my active board at the beginning just to model it for the kids, and then once they are working on their own, then they'll understand kind of how it works so they can use it on their own at home. All right, so I think I'm going to show you my Google Classroom. The way I have it set up right now is by day, using the days as the topics. Last year I did it with the weeks as topics, and that was pretty nice. But some days I had multiple assignments and the kids were turning in like only one but not the other. So this year I thought I would try it as an entire day being the topic. So I'm thinking if we were having class in person on this August 24th Monday, then I could have the agenda posted. And I have this created as a material, which you can see from this icon, rather than an assignment, which looks like this. So it's not something that kids have on their to-do list that they have to check off. It's just there for them to view the overview of how class is going to go. And so then I have what they're going to do first, and maybe I'm going to put this up on my active board, but I'm worried the kids at home won't see the active board as well, so I just linked it right there. And then kind of what we're going to talk about, and then the math journal pages we'll do, and then a problem of the week idea that we might launch at the end of class. And so all these resources are down here for the kids at home if they need to click on it. And then I'm using these 3 asterisks. It's just an idea that I'm going to try out for the kids at home if they're not with us live during class and they're just trying to get caught up afterwards, to help them understand like which are the things you absolutely are trying to get to, and then which things maybe if you're rushed for time you might skip over, just as you're trying to keep up with all the things from the day that you didn't get to see. So that's my idea for how the agenda might work. And then that's something that really only the students at home would need to be interacting with at all. Then this classwork, it's the same thing. This is for students at home to upload pictures of the work that I would have seen the kids in class doing in class. So the only thing that everyone would be touching is the homework for that night. And that would be something that each student would go. So this is an example of one where they're going to correct it using the form. And so this is Simple Solutions page 5. First, they would just do it in their Simple Solutions book. And then once they finished it, they would go to this form. And so then they would put in their name and they would take a picture and upload it of their work. And so then I'm going to, let's see, I'm just going to upload a random picture because I don't have Simple Solutions done. Let's see, this recipe is really good. Let's see if I can upload that. Alrighty, and then they would submit that, and that's going to be like their before picture. And so then once that goes through, oops, that's important, so I know who is submitting what. So then they would get to see the answer key. And so now they're going to use this to mark their answers right or wrong. And this is a process that I'm going to be teaching them about. So when they're correcting it, what would it look like to redo the problem correctly, not just write the new answer down. And then once they've corrected it, again, they're going to add another file of their work with corrections on it. And so that way I'm making sure that the kids are having an opportunity to fix their work. And I can also see if there's problems that many kids are fixing, then we can discuss that the next day in class. But I know either way that they've seen the correct answers and they've been able to check their work against it. So then that's sort of how I would envision the day's work going. I think for the next day, I added a video explanation. So I'm interested in trying having kids video record themselves doing a math problem, and maybe they're doing it on a piece of paper where I can't see it, but they're talking through what they're doing to solve it, so I can hear their thinking out loud. And this is something I think we would definitely have to model, and then we'd have to show some kids videos and kind of critique each other and figure out like what's the right level of explanation. But I think it would be a way for me to hear how they're thinking about their work as they're doing it and how well they're understanding the process. Because when I just see the work on the page, I don't know if they're getting a lot of help from their parents, if they're looking things up on the internet as they're doing it, or copying somebody. I think most of my kids were working really hard, but maybe they were struggling and I didn't realize it because they were getting support from somewhere that I didn't see. So if I can hear them thinking out loud, maybe once a week on a certain problem, that would be an extra way for me to get a sense of their progress. So that's so for formative checks for understanding, as much as possible, I'm listening to conversations, whether it's whole group, overheard, one-on-one. I think I would definitely be trying to pair my students at home that are there through Zoom with somebody that I know will be really talkative with them and making sure that they're able to stay engaged. So listening in on those conversations as well. And so then just it's math, we'll have some worksheets. We've got those Google form assignments. I'm interested in using Edpuzzle videos and putting in little questions in them. I might try to do that with this video actually, just so you can kind of see how that works, and then the student video explanations. And so then for getting feedback to them, I think finding ways to have automatic feedback for kids is going to be really, really important, just so that they're getting as much feedback as possible. So whether it's through Google Forms, self-corrected, or through the keys that are posted, answering questions that I ask on Edpuzzle, that quiz will tell them right away whether they're right or wrong. That's going to be really helpful for them to get that instant feedback to make changes in the moment. I also leave Google Classroom comments, and then I'm interested in trying to have more opportunities for students to give feedback to each other, maybe on those video explanations, or things where kids can learn from and also critique their classmates' reasoning on problems. So I have to think about how to put that together in a way that's really useful for students and thoughtful, But I think it could be really powerful if we can figure out a good way to do it. I'm also maybe going to play with the idea of doing video feedback. So if I can talk to a kid about their mistakes rather than just writing a note, that might be easier for some kids to understand. And then office hours for one-on-one talk if a kid's really